Hey everyone, with the first wave of the MK8 Deluxe DLC having just dropped, I wanted to make a track ranking video. Wait, don't click off yet, because if you've watched some of the other videos on my channel, like my comprehensive drifting guide or my best builds video, you know that I love to talk data and numbers, and I actually played almost 600 rounds of MK8 Deluxe worldwide races online, just so that I could collect data on how frequently every track is voted on. The reason I wanted to do this is that many of the other track ranking videos out there are based on subjective opinions, and you can't really criticize anybody for having their own opinions, and I wanted to do something a little bit different and develop a track ranking that's based on observable data, in this case, how popular each track is online. Now, because the point of this video is to actually rank the tracks, I don't want to spend too much time talking about the science, but suffice it to say that playing 600 races allowed each track to be put up to a vote enough times, and it also allowed each track to be voted on against at least half of the remaining 47 tracks. This is important, for example, because if a really good track only goes up against other bangers, it might make the percentages look a lot worse for that track. So we need to make sure that every track went up against a good mix of tracks, both good and bad, so that we can make the rankings as accurate as possible. If you want me to make another video detailing the methodology and the assumptions and the science and all that, I'd be happy to do that, but for now, let's get on to the main event and talk about the track rankings. Here's how things are going to work. I'm going to present the tracks in rank order based on the percentage of votes that it gets in worldwide lobbies. For every ranking, I'm going to be presenting 4 different numbers. The first one is going to be the number of times out of my 600 races where the course actually showed up. The second number is going to be the number of tracks that this course went up against. The third number is going to be the percentage of the time that the course actually got voted on, and then the fourth number is going to be my own personal ranking of the track. To make sure this video isn't literally just taking a tier list photo and filling it with nonsense, I do want to spend a bit of time talking about how I personally rank the track as well. And to make my own rankings as comparable to the community rankings as possible, I'm going to rank the tracks based on how likely I am to choose them online. And that's enough of that, let's get on to the rankings. Number 48, Baby Park. The community and I don't agree on a lot, but one thing we can apparently all get behind is the fact that Baby Park sucks. Do I really need to go into much detail here? You're literally driving around in circles for 7 laps, and the track itself is so short that you're never not in danger of getting absolutely wrecked no matter where you are. Absolute chaos, and it's just awful for my VR. Number 47, Toad's Turnpike. Alright, look, I really want to like this track because it's not really that different from the N64 version, which I actually really enjoy playing. And no, that's not just nostalgia talking. I played it on the online expansion pack for the Switch, and I still had a great time with it. Part of it is that the track feels so gigantic now that the cars are pretty much a non-issue unless you're going for the absolute tightest lines. And if you are going for the tightest lines, then be prepared to run into bananas and all other manner of backwards spammed items. I asked around in the speedrunning Discord, and one person mentioned that the gigantic scale of the track on the Switch makes it so that you're driving straight for a much longer period of time, which could add to the bore factor here. Also, this might just be personal preference, but listening to the music of the original really makes me feel like I'm racing around in a major city, especially the rapidly ascending and descending arpeggio bits. In contrast, the electric keyboards in the Switch version make me just want to take a nap. Anyways, if I didn't have such disdain for bagging tracks, this would easily be my least favorite track in the entire game, but that's enough about Toad's Turnpike. Let's move on to number 46, Piranha Plant Slide. I used to have this track ranked a lot lower before I actually learned how to time trial it, and while it's still pretty lame in my book, it's at least got some stuff to keep you busy. This is the first course on the list that features what I'm going to call annoying obstacles. Now, what exactly are these annoying obstacles, you might ask? They're these little things that are strewn about the course in such a way that the optimal racing lines force you to go over them, but the obstacles themselves make you get a little bit of airtime. They're not necessarily difficult to navigate, they just feel really crappy to drive over. In Piranha Plant Slide, I'm talking about those long green pipes in the 90-degree turn section. Again, they're not super hard to get around or anything, they just kind of make me cringe every time I go over them. Number 45, Twisted Mansion. I'm honestly pretty surprised that this track is as low on the list as it is, especially considering some of the other tracks that ranked above it. I mean, to be fair, I don't usually vote on it either, but that's because I usually vote random unless I get one of the tracks from my A tier or S tier. Anyways, I don't have very strong opinions about this track, really. It's got a couple of nifty shortcuts, some turns that are difficult to navigate, which, you know, is a plus in my book, and the theme is pretty cool. One thing I'm not a big fan of is that there are 2 different narrow split pass sections, which, unless you're lucky, usually leaves you pretty vulnerable to RNG. Not much else to talk about, so let's move on to the next track, and boy do I have a lot to say about this one. Number 44, Sherbet Land. I said in my Sherbet Land video that this was, in my opinion, the most underrated track in the game, and I definitely meant it. I can't begin to understand why I seem to be the only one that ever picks this course in online lobbies. You can see that in the 575 games that I played, Sherbert has shown up 36 times, and it's gone up against 35 other tracks. Y'all are really about to tell me that you'd rather play Mario Kart Stadium or N64 Rainbow Road over Sherbert? I suspect that a lot of the reason people don't like Sherbert is similar to the reason why people don't like Bone Dry Dunes, which is that it's just slippery and very hard to navigate properly. But that's honestly one of the reasons why I enjoy the track so much though. It's one of the few courses in the game that really separates the people who put the time in to master the course from the people who haven't. Rather than a course like Cheeseland where you can be the world record holder and still get dumped on by people going, lightning, bullet bill spam, I'm so good. Alright, let me calm down a bit by listening to this track's amazing music. Seriously though, driving aside, everything about the theme of this track, from the ice skating Shy Guys to the background music which makes me feel like I'm the guest of honor in Santa Claus's workshop, how can you not feel happy on this track? I find myself humming or whistling this song like all the time, whether it be I'm just hanging out by myself or doing dishes or vacuuming or whatever it is, cleaning the house. It's just such a feel-good sound. Those are the reasons why this track rounds out my own personal top 8, and I really hope that you all pick this course a lot more after watching this video. Number 43, Water Park. This is the only track in the game aside from Baby Park where my rank and the community rank are exactly the same. Other than that, Water Park is a track that exists? I don't know, there's not really anything particularly offensive about the course, it's just kind of boring. Well, at least it's not Toad's Turnpike. Number 42, Dry Dry Desert. The first legit bagging course on this list, and no, I'm not counting Baby Park, because even though it's technically a bagging track, you're really just praying not to get destroyed by RNG on it, whereas with Dry Dry Desert, there's some semblance of skill involved in bagging properly. This is one of those courses that's actually pretty fun to time trial, but just awful to play online. That being said, it is pretty hilarious to get a star or a gold mushroom and then just cut off like half the track. Number 41, Bowser's Castle. Alright guys, hear me out. I understand why people hate playing this track. Frankly, I hate playing it too. You make a single mistake or get hit by an item, and the entire course literally becomes a giant RNG fest. Plus, the first ramp in the spike ball section has this super annoying tendency to just not work for no apparent reason. Thing is though, the course is just so cool, and I'm pretty much a fan of Bowser's Castle tracks in every Mario Kart game I've played, which admittedly is not much, but still. I give it an A+++ for aesthetics and music, which is enough to make it fun for me despite how annoying it can actually be to play. Number 40, Bone Dry Dunes. Another massively underrated course, at least based on the difference between my track ranking and the community ranking. The thing is, the only reason I enjoy this course as much as I do is because of how difficult it is to play properly. Like Sherbert, this course is another one that really separates the wheat from the chaff without resorting to inconsistent BS shortcuts, and it does a much better job of this than Sherbert, which is why I've ranked it so high. But that's really all the course has going for it in my opinion. The aesthetics are boring and the music kinda gives me diarrhea, so let's move on to the next track before that happens. Number 39, Cloud Top Cruise. I've rated this course pretty highly, and if it shows up in a track selection screen, I'm pretty likely to pick it. It's like the only track in the entire game to feature a sky theme, at least until the DLC dropped, which is cool in and of itself just for how unique it is. Not only that, but everything about the aesthetics of the Thundercloud section and the absolute banger of a soundtrack make me super excited whenever we actually get to race on it. But I'm gonna be honest, I want to like this track a lot more than I actually do. The aforementioned Thundercloud section is frankly pretty boring, as it's just a ridiculously long straightaway with nothing else going on. It feels like one of those things where the designers were like, dude, the anti-grav here is going to be so dope, without realizing that as racers, we literally can't see any of it. Number 38, Cheap Cheap Beach. Like Water Park, Cheap Cheap Beach exists, so that's cool I guess. It's definitely more interesting to play than Water Park is, and nothing about it is particularly unpleasant, but on the other hand, there's really not that much that stands out about the track, including the music, so let's move on. Number 37, Electrodrome. Yes, that's right, it's Electrodrome, not Electrodome. I'm a stickler for that sort of thing. This course probably has one of the coolest themes in the whole game, and the music is an absolute banger, but it's just not fun for me. I really want to like this course. It's the first course that I ever seriously time trialed. I'm talking like when I first got this game, I spent most of my time playing cups and stuff, and then I joined a Mario Kart league that does weekly time trial competitions. They were doing Electrodrome, and I put up a time that was in the high 2:15s. One of the admins of the group put up a 2:06, and I was just flabbergasted. How the hell was this dude saving 10 seconds over me? Then I started watching world record runs and some other high-level time trials, and after about 2 hours I managed to finally beat his time. Just barely. But then, one of the sick nastiest time trialers in our group posted a 2:03, and I was like, what the hell? So I spent about 15 hours over the course of that week going back and forth with this guy trying to beat him, and I finally managed to eke out a 2:02.009, snagging victory by more than half a second. Then I played the course online and just got destroyed, and that's when I realized, just because you're a halfway decent time trialer, that doesn't really mean a whole lot unless you know how to use your items properly. And even then, just like on Twisted Mansion, the split paths are rife with opportunities to run into errant bananas and shells, and even though this course does hold a special place in my heart for nostalgia purposes, I just never seem to have a particularly good time when playing it online. Number 36, Donut Plains 3. Interesting shortcuts I guess, but it kinda sucks how a lot of the coins in the second set of item boxes are so far off the optimal route. Sort of a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of deal, where you either have to choose trying to play the track fast or trying to play the track much more slowly but safely, in which case you can still run into bad luck. One thing that's pretty cool about this course though is that the first set of item boxes actually acts like a bunch of lines of item boxes, so it's like one of the few courses where you can actually get 2 items at the very start of the race. But yeah, other than that, not much else to say about the track, so let's move on. Number 35, N64 Rainbow Road. I know we're only at number 35 here, so we're not talking about amazing courses, but I still don't understand how N64 Rainbow Road is ranked so high. This is like the perfect example of what I was talking about earlier, where a single red shell at the start of the run can essentially ruin the entire race for you. Not only that, but they took a course from N64 that had a ton of twists and turns and absolutely neutered it. And can we just talk about the music for a second? Let's take a listen to the N64 version of this soundtrack. Post-production basic here. I originally had a long rant about the music and how the music in the Switch version sounds awful, but I felt this was kinda disrespectful to the musicians, so I wanted to be a bit more precise about what exactly my problem is. In the N64 version, the main melody for a large part of the song is played by what sounds like a train whistle. That, coupled with the fact that you're like driving in space with neon light versions of the Mario Kart characters, gives everything a sort of dreamlike, hopeful atmosphere. However, in the Switch version, the thing I find ironic is that there's actually a train dropping coins onto the track at the beginning of the run, but then they replaced the train whistle melody with like a trumpet. And they also replaced the neon lights with fireworks. And now the whole thing just kind of feels like a big, hyped party. I don't dislike this in and of itself, but the nostalgia game is pretty strong for me, and I prefer the much more toned down, hopeful, dreamy vibe of the original. Coupled with the zero comeback potential that I mentioned earlier, basically means that I ranked the course as low as I did because I never have a particularly good time when I'm playing on it. Number 34, Moo Moo Meadows. Moo Moo Meadows is alright, I guess. I tend to do pretty well in this course for reasons I still don't fully understand. Overall, another somewhat forgettable course with not a lot of twists and turns going on, and only one real shortcut that's weird enough that can actually mess you up if you don't do it right. But yeah, pretty much any course that I've personally ranked in the 20s and 30s, I don't have a lot to say about, so we're gonna get through the next few courses pretty quickly. Number 33, Sweet Sweet Canyon. I like what they tried to do with the theme of this course, but it just doesn't feel particularly enjoyable to drive around, or to time trial for that matter. It's a fairly bare bones course with items that are spread out enough that I tend to get hit with things at very inconvenient times. There's also not really a lot of advanced strategies you can use to put yourself ahead of the pack, so there's really no place where I feel like I'm able to make a sweet play. Yes, pun intended. I'm a dad, give me this one. Number 32, Shy Guy Falls. Fun course to time trial, kinda boring online. I'm pretty good at the Shroomless shortcut now, but I can never really take advantage of it because whenever I get to it, I tend to find myself having to play defensively, which takes away from the concentration needed to actually make the cut. Because if you've watched my Shy Guy Falls video, it's a very precise setup that you need, and it took me 11 hours to learn how to do it properly. So yeah, I would like to like this course more than I do, but I just don't. Number 31, Grumble Volcano. I'm honestly pretty surprised that this course ranked as low as it did. I feel like it gets a decent amount of play whenever it shows up, but I guess the numbers say otherwise. Despite the fact that I do enjoy the course so much, I actually don't have a lot to say about it. I think the theme and the music are pretty cool, and it's pretty good at rewarding people who've practiced it a lot, but if I had to pick the one thing that kinda sucks about the track, it's that it doesn't really have very much in the way of interesting shortcuts. So if you fall behind, you're really gonna have to rely on your driver to make a good play. Number 30, Thwomp Ruins. Again, putting this course above Sherbert Land and Grumble Volcano? You guys are crazy, man. I'm not saying it's a bad course or anything, it's just so bland. Like, I like the idea of going through some ancient ruins and whatnot, but I don't know, there's just really nothing special about this course. Kinda lame. Number 29, Dolphin Shoals. I think this course is also pretty underrated. The setting is cool, and it's arguably got one of the best soundtracks in the entire game. I mean, there's a reason why the Mario Kart lick refers to this course. You can't just not feel good when listening to it. But aside from that, the track itself is pretty fun to play as well, with lots of opportunities for advanced strats. I mean, yeah, there's not really a good mushroom spot, but the course has enough other things going for it that I think it's definitely earned its spot in my top 16. Number 28, Music Park. Another course that I really want to like a lot more than I actually do just because of how cool the concept is. I mean, in the original 48, it's one of the more unique courses in the game, and I really like the idea that you can just drive over a piano and it makes, well, not piano sounds, but close enough. Or how the tambourines act like percussion instruments when you go over them. I don't know, the track itself is just really cool, but the fact that the optimal strats have you going over more of these annoying obstacles in the form of those raised piano keys just makes it feel really gross to play on. Speaking of the tambourines, I didn't mention this when going over Cloud Top Cruise, but both of these tambourines act as bounce pads, and frankly, I'm just not a big fan of bounce pads in general, especially the ones on this track. The timing is just awkward, and I feel like it's always a 50-50 whether or not I actually get the tricks when I want to. Yeah, you can buffer tricks with a shake trick, but usually you're trying to do other stuff with your joystick at the same time that makes shaking the controller kind of awkward. Overall, really cool aesthetics, kind of annoying track design. Number 27, Wario's Gold Mine. Why do people like this track so much? Just like Toad's Turnpike, you're basically just driving straight for almost the whole thing. Yeah, it's got some fun music, but I mean, what else is there really? Next track. Number 26, Super Bell Subway. Super Bell is another track that I've rated much lower than the community. I can kind of understand why people like it so much. Maybe? It's one of those courses where between the many shortcuts and the trains, power items like stars and bullets really shine. But as someone who doesn't really spend that much time in positions where I can actually pull those items, it kinda sucks. Anyways, I've been a hater for long enough. Let's move on to some really cool tracks. Number 25, Tick Tock Clock. I'm actually kind of surprised that I ranked the track higher than the community did because I'm really not that big a fan of the track. I think it's a really awesome theme, and I love how the rotating red and blue cogs require you to actually be paying attention to what's going on in the track. But it is another one of those where if you get destroyed early on, it's really hard to come back because there's not that many shortcuts. Unless you count the clock hands at the end of the lap, but that's pretty situational. But yeah, cool track nonetheless. Number 24, Dragon Driftway. I really can't figure out where to put this track, to be honest. I absolutely love pulling off the shortcut, and that alone gives it a massive boost for me. In fact, that's pretty much the reason that I picked the track, which is that it feels so good to flex on people online with it. The problem is that I rarely, if ever, find myself in situations online where I can actually do it, either because I'm spin boosting off of some other players or getting destroyed by items. Dragon Driftway used to be in my god tier tracks, but if it weren't for that one shortcut, I don't really think the track has that much else going for it, so again, kind of a toss-up. Number 23, Animal Crossing. I really want to like this track a lot more than I do. Let's start with the negatives so we can just get them out of the way and I can talk about what I really like about this track. I do like how there are 4 different seasons, but despite the fact that winter is my favorite version of the track to look at, it's by far the worst to drive on. I still haven't found a really good line to take to avoid that middle snowman that spawns at the beginning of the lap. And the fact that it's totally random which season you get means that as soon as it comes up, you're going to find yourself praying to get something other than winter. But now let's move on to the positives. Again, this is one of the most beautiful tracks in the game, and I love all the fan service they packed into the track. I also like how even though the track layout is the same for all 4 seasons, they found a way to make each of those seasons feel unique to play on. I only wish you could practice seasons other than summer and time trials, but yeah, great course aside from the somewhat bland track layout and the awfulness of winter. Number 22, Sunshine Airport. I'm not sure why I like this track so much, but I definitely do. It's not super complicated or technical, and the one shortcut that exists isn't really that impactful, but it just feels pleasant to play on. And that's all I've really got to say about it. Number 21, Wario Stadium. Like I mentioned before, I have kind of a bias against running tracks, which is why I rank Wario Stadium so low. It used to be a lot lower in my list because I couldn't figure out any of the strats, and if this commenter is to be believed, I apparently still really suck at it, but after spending so much time trialing it, it's definitely grown on me. I gotta say though that I really hate the music. It just feels so empty. Not really sure how else to describe that. Yeah, definitely not a bad course though. It just kinda sucks to play online because if you get hit by anything, it's really hard to come back. Number 20, Ice Outpost. I'm kinda starting to realize that I maybe have a bit of a bias towards winter themed courses here. I mean, the community ranking isn't that much lower than mine, but still. I actually do really enjoy this course though. It's not super technical really, but it does reward good soft drifting, which is always nice. Plus the 2 shortcuts you can take feel pretty awesome, so yeah, definitely a course that I'm inclined to pick when it shows up online. Number 19, Mute City. Man, you think I'm underrating this course? Wait till you see where I put Big Blue. I'm honestly not a big fan of the F-Zero tracks. What little there is in the way of shortcuts just isn't enough to make any sort of comeback if you do happen to get hit by a bit of bad luck early on. But that being said, Mute City has one of the first no-item shortcuts that I ever learned in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, so it at least gets some points for that. But yeah, my opinion on both the F-Zero tracks is that there's really just not enough going on to make them interesting for me. Number 18, Excite Bike Arena. I hate this track so much, dude. It's literally just two long-ass straightaways punctuated by some short turns. Yes, I realize that there are advanced strats that I haven't learned yet, and yes, I know that if I knew those strats, it would probably make the track more interesting, but I haven't, so sue me. The track is boring. It's literally just a marginally less obnoxious version of Baby Park, and I can't begin to understand why it gets picked so much online. Number 17, Toad Harbor. Not much to say about this one either, really. Learning the alternate path shortcut when I first started playing the game was pretty cool, but aside from that, there's not a lot really going on in the track. It does feel pretty good to hit the trick off the trolley cars, but there's just too much not doing anything with the joystick to keep things super interesting for me. Number 16, Yoshi Valley. What a fun course to play. Like really. It does a great job at keeping your hands busy, and even once you've figured out that the optimal path is just two lefts, it's still a really enjoyable track to drive on. It also does a really good job at making power items and mushrooms exciting to get without making it feel overpowered. I guess it's just one of those tracks that has something for everybody. Number 15, Hyrule Circuit. I kind of breezed through the last few tracks just because I wanted to spend a lot of time on tracks that I felt I had strong opinions on, and Hyrule Circuit is one of those. What a fantastic track. The beginning can feel a bit stale, but after that it's like non-stop awesome. One of my favorite things about the track is that hidden shortcut that pops up when you hit all three of the boost spinners in the castle. I know that in general it's slower to go out of your way to make this shortcut appear, but it just fits so well with the theme of Zelda games being about exploring dungeons to find their hidden secrets. And if that weren't enough, the no item shortcut towards the end of the lap is probably one of my favorite looking shortcuts in the game. And the best part is that it's not even that hard to learn. Shameless self-promo time. In fact, I've got a tutorial for it that I'll put at the top of the screen if you're trying to figure it out. But yeah, love this track. Number 14, Mario Kart Stadium. This is a course that if you look at my ranking, you'll know that I think it's pretty overrated. There's not anything I find particularly offensive about Mario Kart Stadium, it's just kind of boring. Way too much time spent driving in a straight line, and even if you know how to do the no-item versions of the shortcuts, it's not at all uncommon to get wrecked while trying to pull them off online. But yeah, if it pops up, I'm not really mad, it's just like, alright, let's get this over with. And speaking of getting this over with, let's move on to the next track. Number 13, Rainbow Road. No, I didn't make a mistake, I actually put the Wii U version of Rainbow Road as my third favorite track in the game. I know that a lot of people dislike how they made it like a satellite and that it doesn't have as much of a Rainbow Road feel as some of the other games, but I don't care. I'm not judging it by how good of a Rainbow Road it is, I'm judging it by how good of a track it is. And overall, I pretty much love everything about this track. It's a difficult course that constantly keeps your hands busy without requiring a ton of alternating left and right drifts, and if I'm not mistaken, this is pretty much one of the only courses on 150 where brake drifting is actually required to take good lines. Like Bone Dry Dunes and Sherbet Land, Rainbow Road is a really good course for separating the people who've practiced it from the people who haven't, and that's doubly true if you happen to end up on a 200cc lobby. If I had to nitpick, I'd say that the off-road shortcut isn't impactful enough to make much of a difference if you start to lag behind the pack, but yeah, I think this course gets a lot of unnecessary disdain from the community, and I absolutely love it. Number 12, Cheese Land. Man, another course I cannot stand to play online. I can sum up my feelings on this course with my usual I'm biased against bagging tracks, but let me be a little bit more precise here because it's even worse for this course than it was for Dry Dry Desert. And that's because this course has what's called a bullet bill extension. Normally when you use a bullet bill, it runs out after a set amount of time depending on what position you're in. But apparently the devs put in this thing on some of the windier courses where the bill will actually last for a little bit longer, probably so you don't get dropped off in a terrible spot, thus defeating the purpose of using the bill in the first place. But the problem is that sandbaggers will abuse this mechanic and purposely hang out in the back of the track trying to pull bills and lightnings and all other kinds of stuff so they can use it on lap 3 to overtake everybody at the end. That, coupled with the fact that there's a ton of shortcuts, means that it's almost pointless learning how to actually drive on the track. That being said, the music is super dope, so hey, credit where credit is due, I guess. Number 11, Mario Circuit. Not much to say about Mario Circuit. Pretty vanilla course all things considered, but one thing that I'll say is that it's absolutely amazing for practicing soft drifting since most of the turns are at a perfect angle for it. Like many of the other courses that I've ranked in the 20s, it's kind of take it or leave it for me, but it is a course that I'll definitely pick from time to time if I encounter it in Worldwides. Number 10, SNES Rainbow Road. This course is so awesome. Even though Super Mario Kart was the first Mario Kart game I ever played, I was so young at the time that I don't really remember much about it, so I don't think that my love for the track in this game has much to do with nostalgia. I know that I said I don't usually like courses with no shortcuts, but there's something about this track that just feels so good to play. It's a course that really rewards people who know how to soft drift, especially on 200cc. And I said that I don't remember a lot about the track, but one thing I do remember is the music, and the music and look of the track here are just so cool. So yeah, despite its simplicity, it's definitely one of my favorites in the game. Number 9, Big Blue. Alright, put down the pitchforks. I don't hate Big Blue, I just feel like it's kind of overrated, that's all. I couldn't really tell you why I think that, because on paper it kind of hits all the right notes, doesn't it? There's not too many places where you're just driving straight for a long time, there's a decent amount of shortcuts, and the music is really good. I mean, really part of the reason is that the shortcuts just aren't that impactful, and if you do get hit early on, it's super hard to come back if you're in a lobby where everybody else knows how to do the shortcuts. Anyway, I mean, for whatever reason, the point is, there's rarely a time where Big Blue shows up in the track select screen that I'm like, I really hope we get this one over any of the other courses that show up. My deepest apologies to anybody that I may have offended with this hot take, but it's my opinion, so deal with it. Number 8, Neo Bowser City. I'm not super surprised that Neo Bowser showed up where it did on the list just because, I've seen how the people are voting on it, but what I don't really understand is why people seem to love this track so much, but hate on some of the others like Sherbet Land or Bone Dry Dunes, because as far as I can tell, this track is very similar to those other ones. It really rewards good racing lines over good item play, it's kinda slippery and difficult to drive on. I just don't get it. Anyways, that's why I put it as high as I did. Ironically, despite the fact that this track uses kind of a remix of Toad's Turnpike music, this one gives me more of that big city feel that I was talking about than Toad's Turnpike itself, which is a little bit odd. But yeah, in addition to all that, the course just looks really cool. I love all the neon lights and the rain and the skyscrapers in the background, just a really cool track that's a lot of fun to drive. Number 7, DK Jungle. I'm about to get a lot of dislikes for this one, but you know what? I've said my piece on this already. It's a track with basically zero comeback potential, it's got an annoying obstacle in that gigantic tree root at the start of the lap, it's got a bounce pad flower, which is something I mentioned not liking when we talk about Music Park, and all in all, at the end of the day, it's another one of those courses where I rarely find myself having a good time when I play on it. Plus, as a fan of a lot of the earlier Donkey Kong games, the music style doesn't fit the vibe of those games at all. I realize this is a Mario Kart game and you want to kind of get a little bit hype, but if you compare this to something like DK Jungle Parkway from Mario Kart 64, this soundtrack just has zero chill, and it's kinda grating. Now what I will say is that I used to actually rank this track even lower than I have it now, but it has grown on me a bit after learning how to time trial it for my video. But yeah, please, don't hurt me, it's just an opinion after all. And I don't begrudge anybody that loves the course. Number 6, Wild Woods. If you watch my Wild Woods 200cc video, you already know that this is hands down my favorite track in the game. Now what I will say is that there's nothing this track has that's the best in comparison to other tracks. I feel like Mount Wario is more fun to play, Dolphin Shoals has better music, Cloud Top Cruise has a cooler vibe, but Wild Woods is only slightly worse than those other tracks in those respects, and when I think about the strongest overall track in the game, this just has to be it for me. The setting is absolutely amazing and it gives me hardcore Ewok Village vibes, and unlike DK Jungle, it actually feels like you're in a jungle flying through the trees, ironically enough. It's got, if what I've read online is to be believed, the most unique music in the entire franchise, what with being the only song in 5/4 time, and it's got a lot of fun movement options, especially when it comes to doing the time trials. If there's one thing that I had to nitpick, I'd say that the lily pad ramp section's kinda boring, but yeah, this track is amazing and I literally always pick it when it shows up. Number 5, GBA Mario Circuit. I'm actually not sure how hot of a take this is, but Mario Circuit is fun to time trial, but just not that fun to play online. I don't want to spend too much time on this, I think, because it's basically just another bagging course, albeit one without a bullet bill extension, but I think my disdain for this course just comes from how often I seem to run into it online, and how often it gets picked. Come on, people, pick something else. Number 4, Mount Wario. I'm pretty sure this isn't number 1 for the same reason that I dislike GBA Mario Circuit so much. People just don't want to pick it because it's overplayed. But why is it overplayed? Because it's damned amazing, that's why. It's the only sectional course where each section actually feels like a different track, which is helped in no small part by the fact that the music changes multiple times on your way down the mountain. It's got some pretty sweet shortcuts and alternate paths, and it's one of those courses that just feels the most rewarding to better yourself at. I don't think I need to defend my decision to place it as high on the list as I did, because I'm pretty sure that most of you would actually put it as number 1. But let's move on to what might be my spiciest take on this entire list. Number 3, Yoshi Circuit. Well, here it is. The track that, based on my rankings, is the most overrated track in the entire game. Note that I am again referring to playing in online lobbies and not necessarily based on the track design alone. It's honestly pretty cool that the track is shaped like a Yoshi. The problem is that, like Cheeseland, this is another track with a bullet bill extension, and I just can't stand playing on tracks where purposely racing like shit is not only a viable strategy, but the strategy that gives you the best chance of winning. It's not quite as bad as Cheeseland in that respect, and like Cheeseland, it's actually a lot of fun to time trial, but every time it gets picked online, I find myself thinking, alright, when am I gonna get shocked and passed by a million bullet bills this time? Since this is the last bagging track on the list, let me just say that I realize this is a me problem, okay? I know that my own refusal to actually learn how to bag properly is why I have such a bad time on this track, and let me also be clear that I don't consider this cheating or cheesy gameplay or anything like that. I just have a preferred way to play the game, and this track is not at all consistent with that style of gameplay. That doesn't make the track objectively bad or anything, just not for me. Number 2, Royal Raceway. There's not a lot I can say about Royal Raceway that hasn't already been said about other tracks. It feels fun to drive on, there's quite a few fun shortcuts, and even an easy to learn shroomless shortcut that saves a decent amount of time. Is the nostalgia factor there for me? Maybe, but I think that even without that, we can all agree this is a pretty fun track to play. Number 1, Ribbon Road. I know I'm ranking this one kinda low, but hear me out. Ribbon Road is a great course with a lot of fun movement, good shortcuts, and alternate paths that are not only difficult to learn, but actually save a pretty good amount of time. It's a really solid all-around course, but the thing is that every course that I personally ranked higher has something amazing about it. Cloudtop Cruise and Wild Woods have much better vibes, Dragon Driftway has a much more fun to pull off shortcut, Ice Ice Outpost feels more satisfying to drive on, etc, etc. So yeah, it's not that I dislike Ribbon Road per se, quite the opposite in fact. If it shows up in the track select screen, I'm definitely picking it unless it shows up alongside one of my higher rated tracks, which is more than I can say for courses like Sunshine Airport, Bowser's Castle, or Twisted Mansion. And there you have it, the only data-driven Mario Kart 8 Deluxe track ranking video in existence. Before we close out the video, let me just pull up a screenshot of my tier list one time because there's something I do want to say. Everything in tiers S through C I consider to be great courses for one reason or another. Hell, sometimes I even get the itch to pick up some of the D tier courses when I'm feeling spicy. Really the only tracks I consider to be bad are the ones in the G tier, which I've obviously called actual trash, so yeah, hopefully you all aren't under the impression that I'm specifically calling your opinions bad, because I could definitely see how a lot of you would pick a different rank order. And at the end of the day, these are just my opinions anyways, and this is all about having fun, so if you made it to the end of the video, I really hope that you enjoyed watching. So what did you think about the video? Do my rankings or the community rankings match your own personal ranking more? Are there any tracks that you think I absolutely got wrong, and any that you really agreed with? And are there any community rankings that you found particularly surprising or things that you particularly disagreed with? I've got a link to the Tier Maker website and to my Discord in the description, so feel free to make your own tier list and post it there. Also, don't forget to let me know down in the comments what you thought about all this, because I would love to hear from you. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video, and best believe that a DLC version of this will be coming out soon. I hope that you all have a great day, and I will see you in the next video.